Hey everybody, Danny Maude here. Thanks for joining us. The golf swing is so much easier when you do this. Great players have a knack at getting this handle ahead at the moment of impact to get wonderful compression and consistent ball striking. But they don't do it by holding onto this angle like this. This club is also traveling at a vast amount of speed. That means that they don't only get the ball striking, they also get the speed. And they do something similar with driver, which I'm also going to discuss in this week's golf lesson. The question is, how do they do it and how can you do it too? That's what I'm going to cover in this week's golf lesson. Now, before I do, look, if you're new to the channel, it's one of your first videos of mine, please consider subscribing. Press that little bell button, next subscribe button, you get notified every time I release a video just like this one. Plus, I leave a free downloadable practice plan in the description box below, so you never have to remember a thing. Great, so let's start with the irons, and then what we'll do is we'll progress to driver, and we're going to do it in three very, very simple stages so you can learn this really, really easily. So all good players, they have something in common, which is body separation. What do I mean by that? Well, watch. Their torso always lags behind their lower body. You'll see it with any good player. Through impact, their lower half is very much open. You see the hips open to the target as they approach impact, while their shoulders are much more closed compared to their hips. The torso is lagging behind. You would do it if you threw a ball. Your lower body would lead, the arms lagging behind. It's what creates the slingshot or the catapult, right? Same if you were throwing a discus. But it also does has the act of really helping compression and ball strike, because obviously if you're leading the way, this is always then ahead, leading the way, while this lags behind. That gives you the strike and the speed. So how do you go about learning this? Because you're going to be different ages and different levels of flexibility to me, so the younger guys can probably have more separation, they generate more speed. And if you're a little bit older and you don't have as much flexibility, you won't be able to get as much. So let's see how much you can do, because if we can teach you it, it'll really, really help. So stage number one, what we're going to do is learn the step exercise so you can start experiencing the separation for the first time. All we're going to do is this. I want you to simply step to your trail side and create some momentum in this club. So it's step, swing. Now, as you've created this momentum, I then want you to almost immediately step to your lead side. What's this doing straight away? Well, when you're stepping here and you've got momentum of the torso going backwards here, watch this. This makes sure you stay centered so you're not moving off the ball, but it's already setting the lower body going where? The opposite direction. So you've got the lower body going this way, whilst you've just created momentum going that way. That immediately creates a separation and the readiness to get into that great position with some slingshot, right? Look at it here just as a visual tool. Watch this. This is your backswing here. We're making a backswing. We've got momentum at this end. As that momentum goes here, it keeps going there simultaneously. Now you've stepped over here, you create snap. That's what's going to create an extra bit of slingshot, whilst at the same time making sure you're over the ball, ready to compress it, right? So I gave this to, like I said, a recent student, my Mark, and Mark loved it almost straight away. It's like a rhythm and a dance you've got to get into. Initially it can feel a bit strange, and we'll work on how you apply this to a still stance later. But for now, it's just step, step. Just feel that kind of rhythm. 1, 2. Now it's like, oh my God, yeah, I'm right over here. I can feel it, and I can feel that whip at the end. So you start hitting some goals. We actually put it on a tee to start with, but we just start hitting a few shots, very small. Now I'm on the Trackman Sim here at the 3rd hole at Royal Point Rush, par 3. We're not going to reach the green, but feet together, create some momentum, step, step. And I'm just tapping it down there to start with, right? Just feeling that lovely immediate separation. Now my strike there was really good straight away because, well, I'm already here, yeah? So that's what I want you to do as stage number one. Feel the correct coordination of the body and the correct separation. Do that first. Then what we want to do, the next stage is now about making this much, much more efficient, right? So watch this. What do I mean by efficient? Well, look at this. Efficient basically means how much can you stretch this band while staying safe based on your age, flexibility, etc., right? So we're going to start to extend how much we can create in this stretch. So the stage number one in this process is this. Let's bust an old myth. Do not try and have a very slow backswing. Slow backswings do not create much momentum. What do I mean by that? Well, watch. if you go too slowly here, we want to create a stretch in this muscle. If you sling the arm back a little bit quicker, we create naturally more stretch. That stretch, when you sling this backswing back just a little bit faster, boom, we get that extra bit of stretch, but it doesn't want to stay there, so it snaps back, right? So your next stage is simply to create more momentum in this step. So we're now going to do this, step, and just sling that momentum just a little bit faster, just to see how far you can stretch that band while simultaneously going the other way, right? So just a little bit, and we're going to get into a rhythm with this. So watch this, step, momentum, and away we go. Let's see how much further we've just hit that one. Will that reach the green this time? A little bit right, but yeah, you go. So a bit more momentum gets up there. So just find your rhythm with that. Step, just increase that momentum just a little bit quicker here, while simultaneously making the second step. And that will give you the extra bit of stretch in the band to create more catapult, while simultaneously getting onto that lead side and getting that compression. Now, what could you do, or how could you take this to the golf course? Well, you could increase this stretch by making it even simpler than that, by just verbalizing what I like to see, 1 and 2. So in the first exercise, we just did this. 1, 2. Quite short, quite snappy, won't really get extra stretch. Add the and in, and we can get the extra stretch in this position. Watch this. 1 and 2. Can you see that? And gives me a bit more time to kind of keep that stretch on, right? So watch this, with the same step again. 1 and 2. A little bit right, but doesn't matter. Bear in mind, we are going through a drill here, right? So direction at this stage isn't important. We're just feeling the body separation. And we're doing it, look, in an exaggerated way. Mark said to me, can I take this to a golf course? Well, maybe as a pre-shot routine, as part of what you do beforehand to get a feel for this, but it's difficult to maybe hit some balls like beautifully with it initially. So do it as a feeling, and then gradually, when you go back to normal, you've got some idea of the subtlety, yeah? Because it's hard to learn this from a static position, particularly if you're not used to it, right? So let's have a look at this. So as I've done that, I'm going to say now 1 and 2, but I'm going to keep my feet now in my normal position and see if I can experience exactly the same thing. Felt pretty good. Looks pretty good. A little fade into that top bank. Come down from there. Here we go, right? So how do you create separation? You've got to learn to feel it first. We're trying to create it, so what we do is the lower half is always leading the upper half to get you over that ball, to get that handle ahead with speed. Speed is so important. Trying to hold this will just never ever work. How do we do it? Step, create that momentum in the step. And then as soon as people ask me, when do we step forward? Do you know what? Step forward quickly. Watch, step, and I'm already, as I've got momentum, starting back here. Hugely important. All you then do is build that to stage 2 once you've got that sensation, create more momentum by swinging just a little bit faster. So step, more momentum, and away you go, right? Then moving to the third stage, maybe go back to maybe a normal stance and just use the verbalization 1 and 2 to try and get the whole thing out. So it becomes 1 and 2. And you can see here, look, almost when I'm going and 2, there's almost 1 and 2. There's the step. You're building that rhythm in. That's how you create separation. That's how you can start to get that handle leading, whilst at the same time maintaining your club head speed. That, I'm sure, will really, really help. So before we finish, let me just show you very quickly how we do this with driver. Great, so what do you do with driver? Do you know what? You do exactly the same thing. Just make one simple alteration. You're going to have the ball further forward as one, actually 2 alterations, ball further forward. And secondly, you've got to remember with a driver, we want to imagine hitting the ball a lot higher. We want to hit it up off the tee. So what we're going to do is we'll do the same principles. You're going to step, get some momentum on the way back, and then while stepping forward. Now what this means, when you get forward now, what's great about this is you've now got this platform to push off. A lot of people think that hitting up on drive is all about leaning back here. Absolutely not. There's no power in that. Driver, what we're trying to do is we're back here, we're getting forward, but then what we're doing is we're using that pressure you've just added into that lead leg to push back off. That's pushing back this way to allow the club look to swing where? upwards, yeah? So all of this works really well with driver 2. It gives you the launch pad to fire that ball up in the air. So again, we're on the TrackMan Sim at hole number 1. Let's have, oh, that looks nice and tight. Let's just launch this down there. So I'm not going to do the drill. We're out on the golf course now. We've done the practice swings. We've got the feeling, and we're now going to try and get some of this separation. Bit toey, but do you know what? Have we hit the fairway? We have hit the fairway. So let's summarize. What are you trying to do? Very, very simply, you want to create the impact position, even with driver, solid here, with some speed. How do you do this? You've got to create body separation. Simple way to learn to feel it, get the step exercise. Step, momentum, step. Do it quicker than that though. So step, momentum, or as this is going back, you're simultaneously going down. What does this do? Remember, we're stretching here. The more momentum we create, the bigger the stretch. While simultaneously stepping, you then create the fire. That gives you the slingshot while simultaneously getting you forward. What can you do on a golf course to make it simpler? Use the terminology 1 and 2. This can be a great way of just monitoring and getting this length out. So 1 and 2. Helps with a bit of timing, all right? So I really hope you enjoyed this video. Give it a thumbs up if you did, and maybe share it with one of your friends who you think they could do with a little bit of help with some of this stuff. And of course, look, there's a free downloadable practice plan in the description box below, so you never have to remember a thing. And if you're new to the channel, it's one of your first videos of mine, please consider subscribing. Press that little bell button next to subscribe button. You get notified every time I release a video just like this one. But until next week, have a great golfing week.